Hello and welcome to our online version of our new starters parents information session. We hope that you find it informative and useful. Now let me introduce you to the members of our team. Our acting head teacher is Mrs. Natalie Aldridge, and our school business manager, who lots of you will get to know through the office, is Mrs. Sally Reid. Our teachers in Gruffalo class, we have got Mrs. Kat Lazenby, who is also the early years phase lead, and Mrs. Amy Greatrex, who is her job share working on Thursdays and Fridays. And in the other reception class, in Elmer class, we have Miss Emily Albans Marriott. We also have got two teaching assistants who work full-time, Miss Helen Buckle in Elmer class and Miss Lisa Holton in Gruffalo class. All of our staff are very friendly and approachable, and we're always happy to help you if we can. I'll talk for a little bit about the early years curriculum, as it's slightly different from that covered by the rest of the school. In early years, there are 7 areas of learning. The 3 prime areas, which nurseries really focus on, are personal, social and emotional development, communication and language skills, which includes things like listening and attention and understanding and speaking, and also physical development, which focuses on gross motor skills such as jumping and climbing, as well as fine motor skills such as holding a pencil and threading and cutting. There are also 4 specific areas of learning, which are literacy, which involves reading and writing, maths, which is number and shape, space and measure. We have something called understanding the world, which involves things like science and geography and history and understanding about different people and communities and traditions. And then we have expressive arts and design, which involves things like art and craft and construction, singing, drama, dancing, and all those kinds of creative activities. So at school, our daily routine stays the same for most days, as we know that young children in particular really thrive on knowing exactly what's going to happen next, and they love that stability that comes with a regular routine every day. So our classroom doors open at 8:50 and the teachers will greet the children coming in. The children will independently hang up their coats on their peg, put their reading folder into the box and go into the classroom with their water bottle. When they've gone into the classroom, they will get on with their morning task, which at the start of the year involves practicing writing their name. And then as they progress with their writing skills, they begin to write simple sentences and sometimes even a whole page of writing about a different image that is projected on the board each morning. While they're getting on with their morning task, the teacher will be completing the register and talking about the calendar, the date, and what the activities are going to be that day. We then move on at 9:10 to our literacy and topic work. We combine these two things because usually our topic work, which is things like science and geography and history, are linked all around the core books that we've chosen to read for our literacy. So they're very interlinked. And we spend about 20 minutes, we keep it short and fast-paced to keep the children engaged, and their attention span is not particularly long at this age, so we know that we want to keep it quite snappy and make sure that they've got all the learning that we want them to take out from that session. Once we've had our literacy and our topic whole class lesson, the children have something called challenge time. And when it's challenge time, they are able to choose free flow from inside, outside and between the 2 classrooms. During the lessons, the divide between the 2 classrooms is pulled across. But when the lessons have finished, we open up this divide and the children are able to move between all of the different areas in our unit. Sometimes the children will be working with an adult at a guided activity. This might be doing some reading, it might be practicing their writing or doing a maths activity. It might be doing an activity outside, an experiment at the water tray or with magnets. And then the other children are choosing their own challenges. They might be playing, they might be working with another adult on a game or on an activity or with their own friends. They are able to play with children in the other class, so please don't worry if you feel like your child has not been put with all of their friends from nursery, as they mix very well during this challenge time together. We have about an hour of challenge time, and then we get the children to come back together as their class into their class carpet area, and we have rhyme time together, and the children are able to have their free fruit and their milk. Then it's time for maths. Again, we try and keep this quite a short session. We work with half the class at a time, so it's quite a small group, and this enables us to really see how the children are progressing and work with their individual needs. Every child has some practical resources that they're able to use, and they have a little pot of gems which they can count with and add and subtract and use for doubling and halving and problem solving. This means that every child is active during the lesson and they are all really learning. After this math, they have time for another challenge time where they can have their child initiated play and possibly some more adult guided activities. During the challenge time, we encourage every child over the course of each week to achieve 5 different learning challenges. They get a different coloured lollipop stick for each of the challenges, and if they get all 5, that means they will get a special shiny sticker at the end of the week. Next, it's time for lunchtime, and all the children go together to the dinner hall. The class teacher will take them there and they'll sit down with their class at a big table, and the dinner ladies will bring over their food to them. After they've eaten their dinner, the children are taken outside to a special designated area just for the early years children, where they have a playground and some play resources and are supervised there, away from some of the older, bigger children on the main playground. After they've had this lunchtime play, they come inside at 1 o'clock for the second registration session with their class, and then the teacher will lead a phonics lesson. Phonics is how we teach children to read and write in schools. We teach them the sounds that the different letters make and how we can blend those sounds together and pull them apart to spell words as well. After they've had phonics, we have challenge time. Again, this is our third session of challenge time throughout the day. We really value the interactions and the language acquisition that happen during play, as well as the learning that can happen. So we always ensure that we have one adult at least who is the play lead, who can work with the children in the role play area, playing outside, and really develop their games and think about their questioning that will bring them forward in their learning too. Finally, we always finish the day with a nice calm circle time session. This may be focusing on music, we might share a story, we might do what's in the box, which is a show and tell session with a different child each week fills a box in with things all about them and their family. Or it might be a PSED session, which is where we learn about personal, social and emotional development and talk about our feelings and our behaviour. And at 3:30 it's the end of the school day and the children go home. At South Wilford School, we only have one school rule, and that rule is be at our best. And this rule applies to everything that the staff and the children do. So we can view it in terms of our behaviour, in how we treat each other, in how we look after ourselves and everything around us, in the work that we produce and the effort that we put into it. But in early years, we also have some guidelines, and we teach the children a little song to help them remember these. And these are things that we look out for in their day-to-day classroom behaviour, being kind and gentle and listening, telling the truth, working hard and looking after all of the things that we have in our school. It's very useful if you can reinforce this school rule and these guidelines at home as well as school to really consolidate that for the children. Learning through play. So it's been scientifically proven that young children learn best through purposeful play and exploration. When there is not the pressure on them to perform and achieve and learn, they actually take greater risks, they get more enjoyment and more memorable learning. They are more willing to have a go at new things and to rehearse and practice and make links between their learning. So during the school day, the children won't just be sitting down at tables having lessons, they will be learning the majority of the day through play. There will be the whole class teaching sessions for maths and topic and literacy and phonics. There will also be the small group adult-led activities, which may be for some writing or a particular aspect of maths. But there will also be lots of chance for their child-initiated activities and interactions during their play with their peers and also the teaching staff. We think it's very important that we always have a member of staff available just to support these playful interactions and extend their learning and question, and also develop their vocabulary through their play. The children also will be challenged to complete 5 different learning challenges each week, and they earn a different coloured lollipop stick for each activity. And this is really important for them to develop their independence because they decide when they complete the challenges, and if by Friday they've completed all 5 of them, they get a special golden sticker. The children are observed and assessed informally by the adults in the unit every day. We don't do tests, there's no sort of formal sit down checking of them, but we are constantly observing them in their play, in the lessons, when we're working with them, to help us get a good balance of evidence, which helps us monitor their progress and also helps us plan for their next steps and follow their interests. So literacy in the foundation stage is developed through a variety of methods. As I've mentioned before, we do phonics every day. This is very structured. We follow the government's letters and sounds document, and we also use the Jolly Phonics songs and actions to really help the children embed the new letter sounds and digraphs as they learn to read and write words. We do reading in a variety of ways. We do whole class shared reading where the teacher will share a story. We do individual reading with children where we hear them one-to-one. We also, as the children develop in their reading, move on to guided reading in small groups with the children, where we share a story together and ask questions about the text. We also do something called surprise storyteller, where we invite parents and relatives to come in once a month and share a story with the children, which they really enjoy, having someone different. The children also have lots of opportunities to do reading in our book area inside and our reading area outside, and there are also books dotted all around the classroom in the role play area, for example, and the investigation area to enrich the children's learning in whatever activity they've chosen. We have a special writing area for the children to access independently. There's one of the weekly lollipop stick challenges the children are asked to complete is in the writing area, but they also are encouraged to do writing inside, outside, in their play, on small bits of paper in notebooks and on large bits of paper with paintbrushes or water outside. We have a whole variety of writing materials, including chalks and pens and felt tips and biros, because children really like exploring the different medium when they're first experimenting with their writing. They also have a chance to write with the teacher in an adult guided group once a week, which really focuses on their next steps and their targets to help develop their writing. And as mentioned earlier, they also do a bit of writing every morning as their morning task, which they do independently while we do the register. To begin with, the children's writing may not look much like writing to you, and we call this emergent mark making. And this is a very important stage, and we praise all their efforts for shapes that begin to look like letter shapes, the letters from their names, and then sometimes the letters that we've been learning in phonics start to appear, and eventually we start seeing the sounds that they can actually hear in the words appear in the right order in their writing. Role play is a very important part of literacy skills development because through role play they are really developing their language skills, their imagination, their retelling stories, and all of these skills will help them become really good writers in the future. And rhyme time, again, I mentioned before, is a really important part of our day. Not only is it enjoyable to come together as a class and to learn new rhymes, it also helps children with lots of different skills such as alliteration, rhyming, rhythm, and all of those things, as well as learning lots of different things through the rhymes. So sometimes we'll focus on counting through the rhymes, sometimes we'll focus on science learning through the rhymes. We can learn all kinds of things through rhyme time, as well as the literacy aspects. So maths in the early years is developed again through a variety of different methods. Stories are incredibly important and very enjoyable way of children learning about counting. You might find lots of stories in your home or in your library that have numbers in, or counting or shapes that you could talk to with your child. Also, there are lots of songs and rhymes which really help children finding one less, one more, counting in order. Lots of the nursery rhymes that they learn when they're very young are very useful for this. We obviously have a formal maths lesson every day. Again, we said these are very practical. Each child has a set of counting gems in a pot which they use to add and subtract and count and double and half, so that everybody is actively participating in the lesson. Games are also incredibly useful. We have a wide variety of games which we put out in the classroom. Not only do they help them develop their social skills, such as turn taking and managing feelings when they're not the winner, but games are also really useful for recognising the dot patterns on a dice, for counting how many spaces forwards, for working out how many more spaces you need to win, and all kinds of mathematical skills that the children won't realise that they're actually learning through playing the game. We also have a weekly maths challenge as part of our 5 lollipop stick challenges. So each week it will be focused on the learning objectives from our maths lesson, and the children will be expected to complete the activity independently in order to earn their maths lollipop stick. We also teach maths through our daily routines, so everyday opportunities to reinforce how important maths is in our everyday life. For example, we will count how many children are at school today. We will do a subtraction sum for how many are off. We could look at the date and the months on the calendar. We could look at how old the children are, how many children are 5, how many children are 4. When we line up for dinner, we line up in twos, so we begin practicing counting in twos. So all kind of math skills can be practiced in everyday activities, and you could try some of these at home too. Our early years unit. So in our unit, we've got a really beautiful purpose-built unit, which we've only had for about 3 years, so it's still in really lovely condition. And we operate a free flow system, which means that the children, once they've finished their lessons, are able to choose where they'd like to go, inside, outside, between the classrooms. The unit is split up into different zones, which cover all the 7 areas of learning. We have the whole class teaching sessions with the divide pulled across the classrooms to make the 2 separate carpet spaces. This means that the children can fully concentrate on their own teacher, but when the lessons are over, we can open up the divide and the children are free to access the whole unit inside and out. This means that if your child has friends in the other reception class, it really doesn't matter because they will be able to have lots of playful interactions with them either side of their lessons. The children are able to select and use the resources independently. All of our teaching resources are out on shelves that the children can reach and see very easily, and then they can move on to new activities and resources with or without adult intervention. If we notice that they've been on the class iPad for a long time, for example, we might intervene and say, oh, I think it might be time to have a go at doing something else. But most of the time, the children are quite good at regulating how long they've had. We have some 5-minute timers in our classroom which they can use and decide when they've had long enough and when it's time to swap. We have a policy to make sure that our resources don't get messy and damaged, which is choose it, use it, put it away. And again, it's really helpful if you can practice this at home with your child, because if you can imagine 60 children all choosing and using resources and then leaving them when they move on to their next activity, we end up with a huge mess and lots of broken toys. So plenty of practice at tidying away when they finish with things would be very beneficial. Here is just a quick slide about the different areas in our classroom. As you can see, there's lots of variety and all the areas of learning are covered. So the children have access to all of the areas of the curriculum every day. This little slide is just a few bits and bobs that are quite important to know for when your child starts school. The first is probably one of the most important things ever. Please, can you label all the belongings? That includes coats, jumpers, PE kits, shoes, hats, water bottles, everything. You name it and it will get lost. Little children are very good at forgetting where they've left their things behind. And in school with matching uniforms, often same shoes from the same shop or similar coats or water bottles, the children get very confused and aren't sure whose is whose. And we find lost items and then we can't work out who they belong to. So it really is important when you've spent money buying these items that you name them. The most easiest way that I've found is to use a company such as My Name Tags, where you can get labels that are sticky printed with your child's name on, and you can get an image that your child likes to help them recognise it. And these can just be stuck in to your child's clothes or water bottles, and I've found that they easily last for the whole year, and they're a lot easier than having to sew name labels in. Alternatively, you could use a Sharpie marker pen. But please try not to use a biro, as these fade in the washing machine and over time it becomes really hard to read the name inside them. Water bottles. We ask that every child in school brings a water bottle to school every day, as keeping hydrated is really important for their health but also for their learning. They also have access to the free fruit the whole year, so every day there's a different piece of fruit and we encourage all the children to have a go and try the fruit even if they're not too sure that they like it each day. And they have free milk until the term that they turn 5. If they want to continue having milk, that can be paid through the office online. But if they don't want to have milk, that's fine. They could just have a drink from their water bottle at that point of the day. We have book bags at school with the school logo on, and these are used to keep the child's reading books in and to send home any work that they might have done or any messages that you might want to send into school. We don't need school bags, especially in early years, because the children don't really have anything else. They don't need to bring in a pencil case, they don't need to bring in any toys or anything like that. So all they need is having one of the book bags which are available from the school office. The water bottles need to be kept out of the bag unless they are empty, because obviously we don't want the water bottle leaking all over the reading books in the bags and ruining them. The book bags the child brings into the school in the morning and they pop them in a box in the corridor, and then that means that we don't have to try and find storage space for any school bags, as the cloakroom space is very limited, and once the coats are there in winter, especially with scarves and things, it can become very overcrowded to try and put in school bags too. So please refrain from sending in a big rucksack or anything with your child. If you want to find something to attach your water bottle to the bag, I've found that you can get some really good hooks and links that can just clip through the handle of the bag and the water bottle, and that makes it a lot easier to carry them both together. It's really important that your child comes to school with appropriate clothing for the weather. As you know, in England, the weather can be very changeable, and sometimes children come to school without a coat because the weather seems fine in the morning, and then we're playing outside at lunchtime and it starts to rain or it becomes cold or windy. Sometimes it gets very warm and the children haven't got sun cream on, and again we can't apply sun cream at school, that needs to be done at home. So really check the forecast, but always provide a lightweight raincoat in the bag would be quite useful, even if it doesn't look like it's going to rain. We ask that you don't send in any toys from home, due to the fact that children obviously love to show them to their friends and share them, but then they can quickly become lost or broken, and that can be very upsetting for the child. So we ask that toys kept at home, please. And tapestry, some of you may be familiar with Tapestry Learning Journal if your child has been to a nursery where they've used this system. We find that parents absolutely love Tapestry because it enables them to see photographs and videos of all that their child has been learning at school. It also enables us staff to be able to see what the child is learning at home, as it enables you to upload photos and videos and messages to us of things that your child might have done out of school, such as swimming or riding a bike or writing their name or baking a cake or anything that you think we might like to know. It's really lovely for us to see all of the achievements that the children do out of school, often we wouldn't know about, such as winning dance competitions or performing in shows. It's really lovely for us to see. We have included the Tapestry Learning Journal form in your application pack, so please ensure that you fill in your email address really clearly so that we can send you the login activation link. Communication with home. We work really hard to communicate well with parents through a variety of means. Firstly, early years we send home half-termly newsletters, and this has key information that's specific to our topics and news. So whatever topic we are doing, we will tell you about which books we're going to be reading in class. We will tell you activities you could do at home to enrich the learning that we'll be doing, and any other things, maybe trips that we might be going on or things that are specific to just as children in reception. You will also receive whole school newsletters as well, and these letters come via email as we try to reduce the amount of paper that we send home. We also communicate through text and telephone messages. So often if you've been sent something in an email letter, you may then get a reminder text message just to remind you about that nearer the time. We also encourage parents to contact school via email and text as well, so that they're not having to wait to speak to a member of the office staff over the telephone. We also have a school website which has lots of information. It has a virtual office on there with dates, information about school meals, uniform, trips and more, and copies of all the letters sent home are also found on the school website. We have also created a new starters tab on the website where you can find lots of resources for parents of children who are going to be starting our school. If you do need to talk to somebody, you can contact the school office via telephone or an email, or you can pop in and see them at the hatch in the reception area. The teachers are usually available at the end of the day for a quick chat, but if you need a longer conversation, it's really important that you make an appointment with us at a mutually convenient time, as we often have meetings after school and it can be quite difficult if you've got a more important issue that might take a little bit longer to discuss. Equally, the mornings can be quite difficult to talk to us because we are trying to greet all the children and get them into school ready to do the registration. So really only quick messages in the morning, please. We have parents' evening twice a year, and we send home a school report about your child's progress and achievements at the end of the year. If your child has an inhaler or an EpiPen or any other medication, then please discuss that with a member of staff. We will ensure that it is stored safely and securely in school. We have a medical room and we also have locked facilities in the unit as well. We can only give out prescribed medicine, and if your child needs us to administer it during the day, then please go to the school office to fill in a form. If your child is ill, please contact the office first thing in the morning by telephone, text or email to let us know. Any sickness or diarrhea must be followed by 24 hours of absence. It obviously is very important that it doesn't spread around all the young children in our class, which can happen very easily if children return to school too soon after a bout of illness. And also school nurses no longer carry out sight and hearing tests in school. So if you have any concerns, it's really important that you go to a local optician's for a free eye test, or you can speak to your GP and get a referral to the Hearing Assessment Centre at the Rope Walk in Nottingham. School uniform. All the children at South Wilford come wearing a uniform. Our colours are navy blue and yellow. The children shouldn't wear jewellery, including earrings. Our PE kit consists of a white t-shirt and navy blue shorts and a pair of plimsolls. For PE, the girls will need to have long hair tied up to keep them safe. All our uniform is available from the school office, including PE kits and book bags, which we talked about earlier, instead of a school bag. The children should wear school shoes and not trainers to school. And as mentioned before, please ensure that every item of clothing, including their coat and PE kit and PE bag, are clearly labelled with your child's name. I've included some photographs of uniform that the children can wear below. So the girls also can wear a summer dress, which is yellow and white checked. When it gets a bit warmer, they can wear blue trousers, they could wear a navy skirt or dress, and we have navy fleeces or cardigans and jumpers for the children to wear as well. You don't have to buy the t-shirts and jumpers with the school logo on, but you can obviously get those through the school office should you want them. So school dinners are free for children aged 4 to 7. So for the first 3 years of your child's life at school, they will be able to have a hot cooked school meal every day for free. All the food is cooked on our site at school in our newly extended kitchen, and we design our own menu in school to ensure it's well balanced as well as appealing to the children. We regularly review it and we get the children to give us feedback on which meals they enjoy and which meals they're not as keen on. There are 3 meals to choose from each day, which always include a meat option, a vegetarian option, and then a third option, which is often something like pasta or jacket potato. We aim to have something that every child will like each day. You select your child's meal online in advance to ensure that they get the meal that they want, and it also helps minimise waste. Children come into the hall at lunchtime, the teachers will bring them there and they will sit at a table with their classmates, and then the midday supervisors will serve them their meal so they don't have to worry about carrying their tray over with their food on it. If your child has any special dietary requirements for medical or religious reasons, then please let us know and we will do our best to cater. Further up the school, your child may be entitled to free school meals still if you receive any of the following listed. It's really important that you let us know if you receive any of these, because it also means not only can your child get the free school meals for their whole school life, but the school can also get additional funding based on the number of children eligible for free school meals. So a few things here that are really helpful if your child becomes independent in before they start school. So number 1 is getting themselves dressed and undressed. We do PE once a week and it's really helpful, as you can imagine, with a class of 30 trying to help everybody get dressed and undressed. So if the children can do it independently, then that is really fantastic for them. It's also something that is part of our early years curriculum. We want them to be able to do that for themselves. We know that it's sometimes easier to help them get dressed in the mornings, particularly if we're in the rush, but the more chance that they have to practice it at home, the better and more confident they'll be at it when they come to school. We will always help them with things such as buttons, which can be quite tricky, or getting jumpers over heads, but we do encourage them to have a go for themselves and persevere a bit. It's also really helpful if you can ensure that shoes can be done up by the child themselves. So Velcro is much preferred over school laces, unless your child knows how to tie up laces themselves. It's also really important that the child knows how to use a knife and fork. We encourage them to have a go at cutting up their own food at lunchtime. Again, it's one of those life skills that we want to foster in the children. Going to the toilet independently is so important when they start school. We have a far smaller staff to child ratio than the children are used to at nursery, and we can't facilitate taking children individually to the toilet, particularly when we're in the middle of teaching a lesson or working with a group or staffing the children in the outside area. So we really encourage you to get lots of practice at home, helping your child to go to the toilet themselves and also wiping themselves afterwards and teaching them how to do that independently. Be very grateful for that when they start school. Obviously, we know that children will have little accidents and slip-ups, and we are perfectly equipped to help them with that. But for the most part, we really like the children to be independent in their use of the toilet. Holding a pencil correctly and using scissors, again, are very useful skills if the children have already got some practice of that before they start school. Obviously, it's something that we will work on with them throughout the year, but when they come in, it's really helpful if they've already learned how to hold the pencil correctly, because bad habits are hard to break, and once they get used to holding it a certain way and writing their name a certain way, it then becomes harder to break the longer it goes on for. Recognising and writing their own name is very useful in a classroom full of 60 children. We like them to be able to write their name when they do a painting or a collage or some writing, so that we know who did the work. Even if it's just the first letter of their name and we can begin to work out who did it, that's a really useful starting point. Also, recognising their name, as we talked about earlier, if there's lots of jumpers in the jumper basket that all look exactly the same, if they can recognise their name on the label, that really helps them to get it back. Practice taking turns and sharing with other children is also really, really important. In the early years classroom, they're having to share the same resources with lots of children, and we encourage them to resolve issues themselves with a little adult intervention where necessary, and to take turns and use a timer to make sure it's fair. And as mentioned before, it's really important that they've got lots of practice tidying up after themselves, and they know that that is the expectation when they've had something out, to prevent our unit from becoming overly messy and potentially getting toys broken. Finally, once your child has started at our school, there are a few things that we would like cooperation with from you as a parent. One of those is hearing your child read at least 3 times a week and writing in their reading record when you do so. This really helps us to know that you've read their reading book at home, and we know that we can change it over. We don't like to change the children's reading book unless there's been a message written in the reading record to tell us that it's been read at home. You don't have to read the whole reading book every time you read during the 3 sessions. Sometimes you could just talk about the story or read a page or two. You could share reading, so you read a page and they read a page, or you could practice some of the letter sounds and the tricky words that we also send home. It's also really important to read other stories with your child, particularly ones that aren't the school reading books. A nice cosy bedtime book is a really nice way to finish your bedtime routine with your child, and reading regularly has been proven to really help children academically throughout their school life. We also send home some examples of maths challenges. These aren't homework and we don't expect any work to be handed in, although you can put photos and videos of it on Tapestry for us to see. These are practical activities that you can do around your home that will link in with the maths learning that we're doing in class. As mentioned earlier, uploading some of our out-of-school achievements on Tapestry, including some of the selfie challenges that we may set. This is really lovely for staff. We're able to talk to your child about it in class the next day. We can say, oh, I saw you on Tapestry the other day. I hadn't realised you could go on the monkey bars. And it makes the child really feel proud and excited that they know that the teacher's been able to see it. It also helps us to build up a bigger picture of your child, because we only see a snapshot of what they can do when we're in class. Practicing forming letters correctly in lowercase and referring to them using the letter sounds rather than the letter names. As adults, we become very used to referring to letters with their letter names, such as A, B, C. But when we teach children how to read and write through phonics in school, we refer to them with their letter sounds, A, B, K, D. And it's really helpful if you could begin referring to these letters with their sounds rather than their names to help support your child's reading and writing. The letter formation is also really important. Sometimes children have learned to write in capital letters, and obviously we want them to learn eventually how to do joined up handwriting that flows. So we want them to learn in lowercase unless they need a capital letter for the start of a sentence or for the name of something. And finally, lots of practice counting groups of objects accurately and linking the numerals to the corresponding amounts. So sometimes we can think that children can count up to 50 or 100, but what we're really looking for is how accurate they are. If you had a bowl of sweeties, could they get you 17 sweeties out accurately? Could they count 17 conkers in a line? That really accurate one-to-one touching the object and saying the number name, and also knowing that the number 6 means 6 objects, matching that together. Thank you for listening.